So good morning to all. Welcome to our third webinar for the IFLA Climate Action Group for Landscape Adaptations for Climate Resilience. Our focus today on Monsoon Intelligence. My name is Jeremy Antarola. I'm from the company ARP. I'm based myself in Germany and will be in the background moderating the session today with our lovely speakers and our debate panelists. I have just a few slides to start off the day and we'll hand over to our group here in just a moment. As you can see, we have a nice packed group today. We have Surav, Angia, and Fong who will be our three main speakers, and will be followed up with Christian and Ashley as part of our debate panel. Each will be sharing a lovely presentation, so please do send any questions into the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat, taking in questions this way. A bit of our agenda for today. So we'll have a brief intro from Tamsin, our IFLA director for this climate action group. The speakers will present, we'll have a debate panel and discussion as a follow-up, and we'll have questions and an answer round at the end. So the few house rules just to get us started. Do please keep your microphones off unless asking a question. I believe this should work out. Cameras can be left on, but we're going to turn our cameras off except for the ones who are speaking later. If there are any just general respect for all those who are presenting as well as in the audience, and do feel free to use the chat. We're happy to take in any questions and throughout the session. So to start off, maybe firstly to start off, it would be great, Tamsin, if you could share a few words from your side, and then we'll do a brief intro from our co-director, Jane Welsh.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our third webinar. I am going to keep it very, very short, but I think there are some people I'd like to give a big thanks and a big shout out to who have been working very hard on pulling this series together. First on the list is Carlos, who is in Colombia and is hopefully fast asleep, but he's put an enormous amount of thought and work into pulling this together, and to Jeremy, who has picked up the baton and continued with the excellent work. And then lastly to our group members. So I'd like to thank Surav for joining the panel today. And just to say that the CAG, as we call it, the Climate Action Group, are a group of passionate landscape architects who are located around the world. As I think you've picked up, we have Jeremy in Germany, we have me in Cape Town, and we have Jane, who you'll be hearing from just now, from Toronto. And we're super passionate about pushing landscape architecture as the solution and the approach for climate adaptation and climate action. And with that, I'm going to hand over to my co-director, Jane. And last thank you to Anashruti, who has done a lot of the technical background stuff for us. Thank you so much, Anashruti. Okay.
Yes, we have a lovely group of people that are in the background really helping put this together. And to start that, Jane is unfortunately sleeping at the moment, but she left some words for you. So here we go.
Hello, my name is Jane Welsh. I'm so very honored today to welcome you to our webinar series put on by the IFLA Climate Action Working Group on Landscape Adaptation for Climate Resilience. I'm a landscape architect and I'm co-director of the IFLA Climate Action Group, and I live and work in the city of Toronto, Canada, where I've had the privilege of leading many innovative and progressive climate actions such as the Toronto Green Standard, which sets sustainability performance measures for new development, and the Green Roof Bylaw, which has resulted in the construction of over 1,200 new green roofs for the City of Toronto. The webinar series covers topics of importance to climate action: biodiversity, nature-based water systems, heat, coastal flooding, nature-positive cities, water-sensitive urbanism, wrapping it up with the voices of youth and a compendium of actions focused on the global regions of the Americas, Asia Pacific, Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. Please stay tuned for more in this webinar series over the spring and summer, and remember, landscape architecture is climate action.
So with that, we'll begin our session with our first speaker today from Surav. Surav, and the title of Learning to Live with the Monsoons in India. Saurav, I would love for you to just take it away and feel free to share your screen. And I've had the chance to talk with Saurav about his work with Sponge Collaborative, and especially that the work that they're doing in India and working with nature-based solutions. Um, uh, I will stop sharing my screen and hand over to you. We look forward to your talk today.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're from. Thank you all for coming together. IFLA has been a really great organization, and as being a member of the Climate Action Group, it's been great to see how we proactively came together and organized a great webinar series. Today, I'll be presenting the work that my firm is doing that I co-founded with Praveen Raj and Manushi Ashok Jain. We were three urban designers and landscape architects in Sasaki in Boston. I had about 10 years of experience in the US after doing my landscape architecture degree at Harvard, and obviously taking a lot of inspiration from Kong Jin Yu, who also came through the program, as well as Koch, who went through the program and initiated the ideas of Spun City in China and Thailand. And now we are happy to kind of take that legacy forward in India. So we'll discuss the work in the context of Monsoon Intelligence, which is the theme of today's webinar. And the monsoons in India are really forms the basis of our civilization, really. And to India, it's both a cultural and an ecological phenomena that's been well described by landscape architects Dilip Dakunya and Anuradha Mathur in the book Soak, and what it means for landscape architecture and planning to live with water. And there's also other books that I've listed here that describe the phenomenon in different ways that I recommend you to read. I myself come from Kolkata in India, and I describe one of the miraculous ecosystems or low-tech, also covered by Julia Watson, which is the East Kolkata wetlands, where the monsoons that basically come through our landscape and transform it, as you have seen in that video before, from basically arid dry lands into wetlands. But Kolkata is firmly tropical, sitting with a lot of water and having communities that in this case use ponds and a network of ponds and fish and aquaculture to treat sewage water and turn sewage into a resource. So in many ways we have figured out how to live with water and even turn water into resources. The other thing about Kolkata and Bengal in general is the legacy we have with ponds or pukurs, which has been covered very well in a Places article called Memories of Water. And in that context, the idea is that we always had a way of living with ponds, and whether it's in our villages or in our cities. And the conflict we have to face today is, what does all this water mean when it hits the concrete and floods our streets? So monsoon for India has both always been a source of creativity, a source of inspiration, a source of poetry, but also a source of fear in places where floods take place. And interestingly, I'll also be talking about a city called Chennai, which is in the south of India. And India happens to be hit by the monsoons because of its shape, because of the Himalayas, or a lot of the area might have been basically a barren desert. But thanks to the monsoons, we are basically seeing greenery, we are seeing agriculture, we are seeing water bodies thrive. But Chennai actually sits kind of in the semi-arid, dry, subhumid part, even though it's very close to the tropics. And what that means is we are dealing with monsoons as a force that comes in every season, bringing in a lot of water. But we also have to preserve that water, or we will face water scarcity. When we kind of intersect that with the rate at which India is urbanizing, and that we yet have to urbanize even more, going from an urban population of 377 million, which is about 33% of the population, to about more than 50% by 2050. But we'll be adding basically 400 million people to our cities, or transforming villages into cities. And so from Kolkata, I focused a lot of my work along with where we have our office in Chennai, as well as in the south of India, where we have our office in Bangalore, and many other cities like Mumbai and other places that we are focusing on in India. And just a bit about Chennai is that it's a 12 million plus coastal city spread over an area of more than 1,000 square kilometers. It gets an annual rainfall of 1400 but most of it is concentrated within the peak monsoon months of October to December, and also the minor monsoon months of June to August. Facing very high temperatures, the unique factor about Chennai is that it is both a highly flood prone city, and between those cycles of flooding, it experiences cycles of water scarcities, almost hitting day zero in 2019, which is when Chennai became global news. And at the same time, the way it's urbanizing is not doing it any favors. We're losing water bodies and basically intersecting that urban change with climate change, where just in the last 10 years, we have seen a number of cyclones and the cycle of water scarcity, but also extreme heat and the prospect of sea level rise for a coastal city. And so when we intersect what climate change is doing with the rapid rate at which cities around India, especially Chennai, at the way in which has exploded, all the pink and purple tiles are showing just development that's happened since 1995. And you'll also see this in Indonesian cities and Chinese cities, where basically we're seeing the loss of water bodies and greenery to be generating a lot more runoff from the same amount of rainfall. But because of climate change, the amount and intensity of rainfall is also changing. So we have changed our risk profile quite a bit, while at the same time losing the assets that could have helped us, including also losing the ways of ecological practices that we used to follow in the south as well. The same way that Bengal had pukurs, other places in the drier areas have johars and step wells. Chennai and Tamil Nadu and the south also had cultures of kulams or temple tanks. And also this idea of how we, in an arid, semi-arid condition, use a cascading of constructed water bodies to hold water whenever it comes in the form of the monsoons before it goes out into the river. So we are trying to basically bring back those ideas and also taking Kongjinyu's legacy forward by pioneering the Spun City approach, not inventing it, but pioneering it in the Indian context, where we have to explain the concept and also overcome a lot of grey infrastructure legacy that's kind of hit the way in which we plan our cities and manage stormwater. Whereas in the Spun City approach, we are taking stormwater as resource and finding ways to protect, restore, and construct blue-green systems that slow down, store, and recharge rainwater. And we have done this in a few projects. This is an image from one of our projects that I'll go into in more detail. The way we work with our 20-person office that's trying to be very multidisciplinary, I take inspiration from Sasaki, where I work, but also SLA in Copenhagen, where I worked as well. And taking that kind of multidisciplinary approach, and as a firm, being firmly political and multidisciplinary in trying to do capacity building at the institutional scale, trying to do regional planning frameworks, which we have done for the metropolitan region of Chennai, and coming up with master plans that we have done for 5 different lake systems and river systems, and creating site projects that become pilots to expand the concept by either informing our capacity building efforts or informing other parts of the master plan and taking the master plan forward through pilot projects. So we have been about 5 years that we are founded, and we have completed 15 projects just in the city of Chennai, apart from other places where we work. And we have had 2 projects implemented and 3 under construction in terms of projects, but also we have done the Metropolitan Open Space Plan and other climate resilience visions. But our journey began before we started the firm in 2018, when, similar to kind of Kongjinyu's approach, instead of writing letters to mayors, we pretty much wrote a book called the Sponge Handbook Chennai and started meeting people at the local level, at the state levels, to push for this approach. And when we cracked one of our first early projects, that's when we started our firm in 2021. So about 3 years after we wrote a book and created the advocacy and created the demand for what we are offering. And over time, through different tenders and different things, we also managed to get a scope to look at Chennai as a metropolitan area and define how the city should grow, how the city should define some green edges, wedges. And within that, proposed very big projects, 2 of which we have actually designed and implemented. So the first project, and we've also created visions looking at rivers and how rivers can connect through the city. So looking at rivers not just as lines of water or a drainage pipeline, but actually as an ecological system and armature for ecology and development. So one of the sites I'll quickly show is a peri-urban site, very important because that's rapidly transforming. All of this that you're seeing built up has basically come up in the last 20 or 30 years. And the city is investing a lot of infrastructure like this peri-urban bus terminus. But what it had done is basically replacing greenery with a lot of concrete. And it's sitting on top of a catchment where it has basically increased the flood risk for everyone around it. And so we had the opportunity to basically work with their open space reservation land and transform the 16-acre, what used to be a degraded land, into a sponge park that's taking the runoff from the bus terminus, but also within the park, and creating ponds that recharge the aquifer while trying to limit the flood risk that this created for the surrounding neighborhoods. And our concept here was to basically celebrate all the regional biomes that can be found in Chennai and around Chennai, ranging from tropical dry forests to dry scrub forests to grasslands, which are very special but not usually celebrated in landscapes or parks, and also making some nods to the hills and the coastal landscapes within through sculptures and structures. So we went from what was a very barren, degraded land that also suffered from a lot of construction debris because of the bus terminus to something that's become a hub for biodiversity and a place for climate awareness, where we have coupled this idea of zones with signages and landscapes and plants where people learn about what they're seeing, what role it plays towards climate change as well, and also making references to some of the traditional ways in which water used to be managed, and actually showcasing some of that through the ponds that we have created within the park that are only full of water when it rains, and it very quickly recharges the aquifer. So the rest of the time, it's basically a landscape that's there to perform whenever it rains. And these are just some quick pictures of this project. I won't go through this in more detail because I wanted to focus on the second project a bit more. But we also monitor our projects in terms of climate benefits. And in this case, we took our sensors and we measured what it's like in the kind of concrete bus terminuses. And by the time we have entered our park, we are actually experiencing a 12 to 16% degree land surface temperature reduction when you're within the shaded areas of our parks. And the important thing to note is even when within a park you have unshaded bare soil, which we had to do in some places because the Maidan is an important cultural typology in India, that doesn't help. You really need shade and trees within your parks to actually have that effect. So I'll focus the rest of my presentation on just this one part where we transformed a completely degraded water body next to a university campus, but it was part of the public land, into a thriving wetland habitat. And I'll explain how we did this. But basically, the story of the site is the story of the city, where we have basically seen the loss of water bodies, the fragmentation of water bodies because of universities or other kinds of developments, and then how we transformed from what used to be a garbage-filled site because it was everyone's backyard and a weed-filled water body into a restored wetland where we have created spaces for the public to experience that as a habitat through boardwalks. And we have also replaced what used to be taken and encroached upon as a parking lot into a park. So we de-asphalted parts of the project area. We transformed the concrete channels that used to bring the runoff from the adjacent sites into bioswales. And we have converted what was basically trash and weeds into a thriving wetland. So our master plan was we are dealing with one water body that's taking in treated sewage water from the campus and one side of the park that's taking in stormwater. And then we take that stormwater through a network of ponds. And then we connect the stormwater infrastructure and the sewage treatment water reuse infrastructure with a continuous boardwalk that allows you to go through these systems while creating social amenities in a city that's really struggling with open spaces. So in our open space study, we found Chennai has a per capita park area of only 0.6 square meters per person. And obviously, we designed this as a sponge park, which means it's designed to withstand up to a 25-year storm from what we can tell. And basically, there's parts of the parks that are designed to expand and take in water. And at that point, both the kind of the treated sewage water system and the stormwater system become one thing. And then the runoff and the excess runoff goes into this kind of open space buffer from where they also take the treated sewage water for industrial reuse. So this is how the system works. We are linked up with the university campus stormwater system. We are linked up with the university's sewage treatment system that first goes into a secondary pond and then comes into our wetland habitat. And our stormwater system has gone through a network of bioswale, sedimentation pond, aeration pond, filtration pond before it goes out into this open space. This just diagram just kind of explains within our project how we're connected to the university campus, even though this was a project done by the government on government lands, and how the system of ponds work. And the result, and this was obviously an effort that went from master planning to design to detailed design to construction documentation. So we also had to figure out what it means to construct these ideas that until we actually implemented them, every engineer told us it's a European idea, it's an American idea, even though it kind of originated in China first. And starting to happen in Thailand and Malaysia and other places, we were able to basically show them that it's possible to do through public procurement. So this is not by a private developer. This is not by even a contractor we had control over. This is a contractor that came through the public procurement process. And we had to really crack what that means to use innovative materials and innovative ways of doing it. So it's great to kind of see this drawing basically become the infrastructure that we envisioned. Close to or a lot more than 90% of what we designed did get built. And also to be showing for the first time how infrastructure can be integrated with social amenities. And as we do that, we also had every signage showing how these things work. So we had signages educating people on how all of these systems work. So these drawings are also part of some of our signage storytelling throughout the park. And these are just some images of how some of the sedimentation ponds here perform during the monsoons, where it's designed to basically expand. And here's the kind of the phytoremediation pond where we have a lot of these plants, and then the water kind of fills up during the monsoons. Here's a video of where we are monitoring our park as well. So this monsoons, we had a cyclone come through. And so this is the same park when the cyclone comes in. You can start to notice that a lot of the runoff is starting to fill up the space. And we basically did manage through construction and after construction, these places to manage the stormwater pretty well. And so the second layer that we bring into it, apart from blue-green infrastructure, is that the green aspect of it needs to add biodiversity. So how we introduce species that are tolerant to fluctuating wetland levels, that are tolerant to both flooding and extended periods of dryness, and also introduced grass species that you typically don't see in Indian public projects. We inherited a kind of a British garden style with very curated hedges and shrubs and things. And this was a very refreshing change of planting palette that the contractors needed a lot of guidance to implement. But now that people come into the park, they find this like they're in a different part of India, or they're not in India, or they just feel disconnected from the city when they come here, even though it's connected to a transit station that has just been constructed. So this is our planting palette, very rich, very layered, very much linked to the hydrology that we are creating within the landscape. And also the way in which, and this is another thing about basically the tropics, right? We have been following a regime of maintenance that allows vegetation to flourish and thrive and grow, while only kind of keeping some of the drained areas that need to be cleared out kind of mowed. But the rest of it is really kind of evoking this idea of urban wilderness, which I took a lot from SLA in Copenhagen, and really seeing what it means in the Asian context. And this is something that's really being appreciated as both being creating urban wilderness, which is a rarity, but also we have found, and this is not us, I know we have added images, but we're not making up the species here. eBird and bird watchers have recorded observations of more than 60 different bird species that are attracted to this wetland habitat now, especially during the migratory bird season. These are just some videos of how we see egrets and herons and loons, as well as a lot of fish that just comes into this pond, and lotuses that have come in. They weren't part of our planting palette, but it's come in. And also the blue-green infrastructure becomes a habitat, as you can see this bird resting with the phytoremediation pond. And in evenings, this really becomes a place where people can enjoy a very serene time after work, looking at this. And obviously, as landscape architects, the interesting thing is we can wrap up infrastructure and ecology with community. And it's very important for us to create this space because Chennai is a space-starved area. And in this case, we also had a lot of mature trees to work with. So our entire layout worked with this to make sure all our kind of recreational areas are under shade. And so this is kind of our design of how we design all these different pollinator habitats with benches, boardwalks, and waterfront decks as amenities. And these are just this is just a video of how the space is very actively used and how it allows people to really experience a lot of birds up close. One of the best reviews we got was from a kid whose parents told us that he's a kind of an avid bird watcher, and they always bring him to this park every day because he's able to see species much up close than they are when they go to, let's say, national parks or regional parks. And they do find quite a bit of diversity as well. And I think with each monsoon, as the, let's say, the birds find out, we might see a greater diversity in each monsoons. We also, let's say, have this scenario where we have play courts not too far from the phytoremediation ponds. And so that really creates a diversity of experiences for people that come in. We also set up time-lapse videos to monitor our parks from a community perspective to really understand how people are using space. This is a public park that so far has a free entry. So it's very highly used, and people are also posting about it on social media. It's gotten, I think, millions of views from thousands of posts from influencers, but also from the Ministry of Tourism, from the state that's kind of promoting this as an urban site. And we have taken this as a site for doing capacity building. So through a different kind of funding, we have transformed the knowledge that we got from implementing this to really create a sponge park manual in some ways that covers how we plan for it in a city context, how we design it, how we detail it, how we implement it, going from financing, construction to procurement, and how we also maintain it. And we have trained more than 200 engineers from 6 different states where we conduct a 2-day workshop, part of which we take them to the site. We use our signages to explain how things work. But we also kind of engage them in design exercises that allow them to go back and create, let's say, smaller sponge parks within their own cities. This is something that we'll continue to do with a Swiss Re grant that we got this year to enhance our capacity building and really create a kind of scalable prototype that can be more easily implemented by local contractors. So that's something that we're going to be working on this year to build on the successes of these big and influential pilot project. So thank you.
Saurav, this was fantastic and completely on time as well. This is really great. No, and so much that we could see in just these short projects, but it's really encouraging because well, of course, later we'll have Christian and Ashley to lead our debate, but it's really about living with water, right? It's about how it's not just about the technical, it's also about the social. There are several questions in the chat. Unfortunately, we're going to save this, but I think it's good. We have then a pot of questions that we'll be able to utilize to stir the discussion a bit later. So thank you very much, Saurav. And with that, we'll introduce our second speaker, Angia Murni. I think it's a great segue there with Angia's work, and she'll be presenting to us a few case studies as well, and talking also about Monsoon Intelligence, but from the perspective of the cultural perspective, and perhaps in a way of we talk about nature-based solutions, blue-green infrastructure as something new, but in a sense, it's really been a part of Monsoon Intelligence is having this as part of how cities were built, how they were, not just the inner areas as well, but also the rural areas. So with that, I will just directly drop off to you then, Angia. Please feel free to share.
Okay, Jeremy, thank you very much for having me here and introducing me here. Saurav is what a great of the presentation. I really enjoy your presentation. I hope I can share also with all of you about the monsoon intelligence from the perspective of the Indonesia side. Is it Jeremy? Is my presentation already can see? by all of you?
Yes, I think we can all see it. It's great. And hear
Yep.
you as well.
Okay, let me start it with this. Wait a moment. Wait, why is still not working?
It looks like you went mute though, unfortunately. Perhaps we can
Right.
there we go.
Okay, let me start it. Okay, so this is my monsoon. Yep. Okay, that's we spend enormous energy designing for the climate resilience. Actually, why this is jumping for this screen? I think wait. I should. Wait, moment. That I think this is jumping the press.
So in the meantime, feel free to add questions into the chat. Anja, if you'd like me, we can also I can share from my stream if that would be helpful for you. Happy to do this as well. But just let me know. I think we can't hear you at the moment, so. If we want to, we can also, Angie, I can either share or we can also have Fong go on if whatever's preferred from you. If you want to let me know, you can.
Yeah, this is the right one. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. This is the right one, Jeremy. Sorry, everybody. Okay. Yeah. Let me start it again. My name is Anggia Murni. I'm running my own company in Indonesia. This 8th of August this year, my company will be, inshallah, we call that is 24 years. We are working a lot with the government and also is with the private sector here. And then I'm a part also of the core founder Green Building Council Indonesia and Green Product Council Indonesia, which is by joining this enhance and enlighten for other profession to see that the part of the landscape architect cannot be left behind, and then we have all together, especially now since the Indonesia has planning to have a new capital city in Borneo, not in the Java Island, which is already very compact. And then now as we are glad that our profession has been inviting and has been taken part a lot to give a roles in the designing of the new capital city is, I mean, in the it's not perfect all, but because of from the tropical forest, rainforest become a homogeneous plant because there's somebody or the one of the I mean one of the bigger company making of the plantation for the eucalyptus, and then for the new capital city, now we would like to regenerate the design to become as a city in the forest, something like that. Okay, we spend enormous energy for the designing for the climate resilience. And what if they are still functioning? The question is, I'm asking today is not how we adapt to the monsoon. The question is whether we are still capable of reading what the landscapes already know. Here, how we did translate abstract meteorological. Yeah, okay, left picture is Jakarta city, which we always know since 5 to 2, 3, 5 years ago, it will always have a flooding even in the capital city in Jakarta. And the picture in the middle is the longest of the river in Sumatra Island, Indonesia. And then here is the picture of the climate for the most in Indonesia, big island. But oh sorry, we're here. Okay. Aduh Dodi, ya Allah. Wait, nggak bisa pakai ini Dodi. Sorry. Okay, yep. But the data alone does not design anything. How do we translate all of this into as a landscape that actually perform into something resilient, something spatial, something that works with the monsoon, not just measure it. Since that translation, that is a design challenge, and that is exactly what Monsoon Intelligence is. Across Indonesia, archipelago, let me go to the other slide. It's jumping. Jeremy, I think you may help me for the presentation. Then I'm so sorry that I have to asking you. I don't know why this presentation is jumping. Jeremy. Yep. Jeremy, you there? Okay lah. Okay, so across the Indonesia archipelago communities have lived with the monsoon for 1,000 of years, not despite, not around it. With it, they shape their land to receive it. They time their harvest to follow it. They built their cities above it. So they named the place where the animal sought refuge from its flood. What they practiced had no name. It had no framework and no theory. I'm still waiting for my team preparing why the presentation is not right in the sequence. But then I will continuing while I'm talking about this monsoon when almost, different with in India. That's in Indonesia sits between two oceans. That makes us from this, we can see that makes it one of the most complex monsoon system on Earth. The west monsoon we have from November to April, okay, and brings the majority of the annual rainfall. And the east monsoon reverses, drier, harder. Wet season, dry season, wet season, dry season, every year for millennia. This is just not a meteorological pattern. This is a design brief. And there are landscapes that have been responding to this brief for over 1,000 years. Okay, so I go to the other slide. Yep. Okay. This is a Taro village. Taro is one eco village in Bali, in the Gianyar residence. So we are not talking about Bali, about the Kuta Beach Walk. Don't worry. But then I hope some of you. I know that many people have been to Bali, but Taro Village is since 2005 to 2014 and 2024. If you see the picture, they don't have to. We are glad that they don't have so many of the changing of the morphology, because the landscape or the green area in the Taro Village is almost 97.5% of this territory is not built. This is not by regulation, but by governance system that's reproduced across generation through the awik-awik. Awik-awik is the local wisdom word there that in Bali language that it means is a customary law. So the Taro village is when we do research there, because we do concern when we see the data that the tourists in Bali every year is increase and increase and increase. But then when we got the information or the data from the hotel chain in Bali, they still has a lot of rooms as not occupied, So where they go? Where go all the tourists? I mean, where they go after the landing in Denpasar, because they not stay in Denpasar as a capital city of Bali. And then we'll looking also the data in the hotel chains, there is not so many changes. And then we are concerned that how about if we got the information that the tourists now is they want to stay is not in the hotel chains only, but they go direct to the village, they go direct to the more to goes to the nature. And what we afraid now is the changing of the morphology of the village in Bali, because we don't want that the all Bali is become like Denpasar. Even maybe some of you has been to Bali recently, that they have flooding also in Bali. A big flooding there in Denpasar. In Denpasar, even in Ubud also they already has a flooding. So we would like to pay attention on my research that how this mass tourism will affect of the morphology to the village and to the of the living with the nature in the village, like the eco village in Bali. So we come to the Taro village. We would like to we talk to the local governor. To the local, not the governance. Bali has their own self of the different government. They still keep it. Yeah, so look at what satellite data reveals here over 20 years, from 2005 to 2024. Luckily, they don't have many changes, while much Bali has undergone one of the most intensive tourism-driven land conversion in Southeast Asia, I think. Rice fields sold, forest clear, settlement density multiplying, but Taro has health informs. In Taro, the forest is maintained, field is maintained, settlement contained. More than 90%, I can say 97.5% of Tari territory remains non-built. Not by external regulation, not by a top-down conservation plan, but by governance system sustained across generation through the awik-awik, as what I mentioned before. Awik-awik is meaning, a local word, Bali meaning is customary law that continues to function without formal enforcement. The landscape here is not imposed, not designed from above. It's a continuous life. So, okay, langsung, yep. Okay, this is a spring as a distribute infrastructure. So Taro Eco Village is a living proof in a village that has never needed to be rescued from the monsoon, because the monsoon was never its enemy. The settlement sits within a river valley where the topography itself manages water. Every compound, every path, every planted edges respond to the movement of water through the landscape. The forest buffer above the village intercept rainfall before it becomes runoff. And then continue the terrace ground below slow it. And the river receives what remains, not as a flood surge, but as a measured release. This is not passive. This is not accidental. The community of Taro managed this landscape actively through the planting decision, through land use boundary, through relationship with water that has been practiced across generation. Okay. Let me show you how the system actually works. It should be like this. Taro has 14 banjar, more than a soup of the small village. And one banjar, the name is Puakan, has 10 natural springs. And these springs supply not only one community, but multiple banjars. This is not managed by municipal authority. There are no pump, no pipelines, and no treatment plants. And yet the system works. It is governed through social agreement, cultural obligation, and shared responsibility. What we can describe today as a distributed infrastructure. Taro has been practicing for centuries, and the reason it works simple. The forest, I can show you the other picture here, where they have a lawn because of Bali tradition and the regulation and the culture, they need of the lawn, But behind this, if you see in the right picture, is already a forest, that people cannot go there. There's a protected, and then under they call that a sacred. And then the left side as a picture of the banyan tree, where is they protected also as a part of the ceremony and something like that. So Taro has been practicing for centuries, and the reason it works is simple. The forest above the spring is protected, not as ecology, but something sacred. Yeah, this is the culture for the left side of the banyan tree, and then they have a lawn for special for the ceremony, and behind that is the forest that is really protected. These are my photographs from Taro. The hunting of seafood, monkey, porcupine, and bird is really prohibited across all 14 banjar. They have all commitment. This is not by wildlife law, but the awik. There's a customary law like that. So see the old trees, the Alstonia, or many kind of the many varieties for the biodiversity that you still give the space for the bird, for the other life there's. So what we call biodiversity protection, Taro does through cultural obligation. What we call green area management, Taro does through spiritual destination. The culture is not separate from the ecology. The culture is governance system that makes the ecology function. So Taro demonstrates all three dimensions of moon intelligence. Hydrological, water is moved, held, and released by landscape form. And then the ecological, vegetation structure perform water interception at every layer. And then the culture, the community reads the landscape as a living system and maintain it accordingly. Taro is not just a case study, it proof for concept, and they're still running. And then let me continue with this is Subak system. Has been recognized by UNESCO. This is an integral landscape. Yeah. What you see in Taro did not begin in Taro. This intelligence of Subak system has a deep roots older than any framework we currently use, older than the terminology we now apply to it. To understand what monsoon intelligence truly is, we need to go back. Yeah. Subak in Bali is UNESCO recognized since 2012 as a cultural landscape of outstanding universal value. But what exactly is? Subak is not just simple infrastructure. Subak is governance system, not government. Subak is governance system, a set of agreement between communities, temples, and water. This has managed the monsoon-driven hydrology of Bali volcanic landscape for even 1,000 years. So the rice terraces are calibrated to the monsoon cycle, including the planting schedules, follow rainfall patterns. And then water temples at every elevation regulated the timing and the volume of irrigation across entire watersheds. Pest control is achieved not through chemical, but through synchronized dry periods. All communities flooding or drying simultaneously, coordinating through the temple network. This is system thinking, this integrated landscape management embedded in spiritual social framework called the Trihitakarana. So in Subak, Trihitakarana is not a spiritual concept applied to landscape. It is a landscape made visible in every terrace, every water temple, every shared canal running between communities. The balance was spatial. The harmony was hydrological. So this is what we call now green open space. They have already customary protected forests like a Banjarland. We call that stormwater governance node. They have a Pura Tirta, the water temple. We call it community resilience protocol. They have awik awik. That's a customary law. So we call that climate adaptive land management. They already have seasonal subak planting calendar and watershed and green area coefficient. Okay. Yeah, sorry, that's late for changing the slide, right? Okay. So where the resilience become the operational, yep. Since a green area coefficient of 20% minimum, Taro has more than that for sure. And then where resilience become the operational, Taro resilience is not a feature of its natural environment. It is sophisticated outcome of three integrated system operating simultaneously: culture, social system, and spatial morphology, which is the culture is indigenous knowledge and spiritual practice as a foundation of ecological governance. And the social system is collective management and customary law ensuring equitable resources distribution. And spatial morphology, the physical design of the landscape actively shaping water flow, microclimate, and flood and food production. The terrace gradient, the settlement proportion, the forest to the field ratio. Okay, right. Then how did this come to be? Taro is not exceptional. Taro is continuation. Yeah. So monsoon intelligence is not methodology to be invented. It is a methodology to be recovered. The landscape architect moves Earth's role in design, in policy, in convention, is to be one of who can still read it. So let me come. I have
And
another.
Angia, this is
Yes,
sorry. I really this is a fantastic presentation. Unfortunately, for
you
time, I think
are
hopefully
running
we
of
can.
the time. Yes.
Unfortunately, yeah, I think what
Yeah.
we'll try to do
Okay.
is let's try to pick it up in the
Yep.
debate discussion because there's so many lovely case studies
Okay.
through there. But just so
Yeah.
that we can have a chance. So apologies for having to interrupt there.
Never
But
mind. Never mind.
well, I
Yeah.
think we got a really great understanding there of
Right.
how this is in a different context, and
Okay.
but we'll make sure we pick this up in the debate panel through there. So Thank you so much from our side. Hopefully, this is also a lovely segue for our final speaker today, from Fong. And so Fong is the founder of Hijab Biro Landscape Architecture. It's a Malaysian Ipoh-based practice. Fong is also the honorary secretary of the Institute of Landscape Architecture in Malaysia, and he'll be talking today, in particular, about river rejuvenation. So please take it away, Fong. Feel free to share your screen directly.
Hi. So I share my screen directly. Okay. Okay. Can see my screen, right?
Yes,
Okay.
it's great. It's great.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Today I would like to share a project titled with Living with the Monsoon, Reimagine the Royal River Towns Through Nature-Based Solutions. So this is a collaboration project between Ilam and Think City. Think City is a platform in Malaysia that promoting urban solutions. So we are grateful to Think City that they give us a trust, they give Ilam a trust, and we have chance to collaborate to do this project. So as an introduction, across the Southeast Asia, basically many historic cities were founded along the rivers. I mean, it's not only in Southeast Asia, but I think most of the world cities were founded along the rivers. These rivers shape the city's culture, trade, and identity. But due to the climate change, the relationship between the cities and river is changes. So climate change is intensifying the rainfall, increasing floods, and amplifying the urban heat. So this project basically asks a simple questions: how can landscape architecture help cities rediscover to live within the monsoon? So our study focused on Kuala Kangsar, which is a royal town of Perak, and it's a town where the palace, the Perak River, the historic streets, and the local culture intersect. So like many other river towns across the world, the urban form was originally shaped by the water. But today, this town face growing climate pressures. River that used to support the settlement now becoming sources of flood risk and environmental stress. So this make the Royal River Towns as a one important testing ground for the nature-based urban solutions. So the monsoon itself is changing. More intense rainfall events was increasing the flood risk of Kuala Kangsar is a low-lying urban area, and at the same time, there are several urban factors intensifying this risk. So yeah. The numbers are very clear. The climate data shows quite clear. In 1996, the maximum recorded temperature is 30.8 degrees, while in year 2021, the maximum temperature is 35.3 degrees. So this indicates a steady warm trending. And when combined with the flood risk, actually this city now face two simultaneous climate pressure. So our proposal is to introduce a simple but effective framework, tree system in one landscape, the design that integrate three spatial strategies. The first one is a flood adaptive river edge. The second is a sponge park that stores water and support ecological function. And the third one is a public blue-green corridors that connect the urban spaces and the river. So rather than separating the infrastructure and the public space, this project merged them into a single landscape system. So these are the some of the facilities or some of the function of the whole master plan itself. I think we go through it very fast. There are several zones like ecological zone, floating path, cultural zone, and so on. So, yes, we in order to get more data and see what is the potential for this project, we actually conduct a site visit and also we did some surface temperature surface temperature record. So the thermal imaging that we can see here is actually at some location in this area, we can see that the surface actually exceeded 60 degrees Celsius. So this indicate that there's an urgent needs for the urban green transformation. So how do we respond differently? So as an open space network, we connect all these corridor with urban elements like public spaces, ecological system, water management infrastructure, and so on. So to link all this fragmented space, this design we form an ecological corridor through this river design as well. And the water can be collected through the biospheres, rain gardens, and at the same time, it improved the walkability and the urban connectivity. So it's become both hydrological network and a social space as per se. So traditionally, river banks along the city area are built using rigid concrete structures, but these rigid structures reflect water energy and often make the erosion more worse. So instead of this, we propose a living river bank, and the idea is simple, which rather than resisting the water, we use landscape to adapt to it. So this approach is inspired that how the river traditionally work. So, to integrate the traditional ecological knowledge along the Songhai Perak, so native plants layer defense system is introduced to create this resilient riparian landscape. So we have several zones like open water, shallow water, wet margin, footpath zone, upper bank, and the floodplain terrace with different native plants that traditionally planted by the or aborigines or the local people for centuries. So we also use nature as an infrastructure, like how we focus on stormwater management through nature-based solution. So instead of relying solely underground pipes, we manage the stormwater through landscape elements like bioswale, rain planters, permeable paving, to slow down the runoff, filter pollutants, and recharge the groundwater. So nature becomes a working infrastructure for the city. So what we want to encourage is nature is part of the urban system instead of a separate infrastructure system. So uh, we had several strategy like how we work with the stormwater like biosphere to collect runoff and so on. So these are some technical drawings and how we put permeable pave, rain planter, and so on to express the hydrology. So we are not only creating it, but we also wish that through hydrology expression, it could educate the local as well. So if you can see in all the slides, I highlighted one element which is the crushed clay that I would talk more about it later. So how we filter waters with the layer of plants, biotop, and so on, together with the permeable system. So it also act as a filtration system or rainwater stormwater system by itself. So this is how we do the hydrology expression to let the rainwater that collected from the roof to run through a narrow pebble fill channel in the planter to filter the water and let the people to see what is the impact of nature to clean the water. So some bioswale to collect the water runoff during the heavy storm, and wetland biotops to retain the storm water, reducing runoff, and so on. So the biotop also beside retaining the storm water, we also put in a clay crush, or we call it Labu Sayo crush, which is a quite unique identity for Kuala Kangsar, which I would explain more later. So we also due to the urban heat island effect, we also discuss how to cool the city, and uh, instead of planting trees, we are looking for trees that have large canopies that can intercept solar radiation to reduce glare. And as a tropical country, I think most of the native trees play the important roles because of their characteristic. So this is some simple section how all this come together with some bamboo structure, where bamboo play another very important role in Southeast Asia country as well. So okay, we one of the strategy is about the bamboo resilience, like how bamboo as a traditional or as a unique as a plants in Southeast Asia history and culture to be a living system that shapes the ecology, economy, and the identity. So, with bamboo is fast growing and renewable. Ecological wise, bamboo stabilize the riverbanks and support biodiversity. Economically wise, it support the local craftsmanship and livelihood. Don't for, I mean, once again, we are dealing with a royal town that's full of culture and history. And culturally, bamboo is deeply rooted in the Southeast Asia tradition. So this make bamboo both a very ecological and cultural infrastructure. So this is how bamboo can act as a structural foundation for the riverfront, and how we planted it as clump along the river. So beside that, bamboo also have a high carbon sequestration rate. And strategy 5 is about Labu Sayong. So Labu Sayong, you see the craft, you all see the craftsman working on this Labu Sayong craft. So what's so special about this Labu Sayong? So Labu Sayong is a raw clay from Sungai Perak, which it's a very unique soil that it could absorb heat. It could absorb heat as a uh, as a water as a uh, water kind of things. So as a water pottery. So instead of just using it culturally, we also study the property of the soil and see how it can function in the landscape system. So these are some chemical and physical profile of this Sayong soil, of the porosity and permeability, on the chemical stability, on the thermal mass, and of the chemical properties as well. So one of it is the main reason we are using crushed sayong is because this labu sayong is a craft industry, is a famous crush industry in Kuala Kangsar. So of course, through the production, they have a lot of labu sayong, which we can collect it to be part of the landscape. So the primary benefit of it is actually we can act this as a mulch for the ground cover to reduce the evaporation and to suppress the weeds and to moderate the soil temperature. So it could be part of the planting beds, tree beds, and for slope stabilization for the riparian plants. The second is it could be part of the system of the permeable pavers due to its porosity. It could be part of the hardscape as well. And due to the physical porosity, it could be one of the functioning media for bioretention and wetland media as well. And the last one, of course, with the crushed busayong clay, we could use it to mix with local to be part of the local texture, the deep earth color, and show the cultural identity. So it is not purely a material, but once you see this color, once you see this element that embedded in the design, you could tell that, oh, this is uniquely for Kuala Kangsar. So these are some images that we are working on. So that's why you see we are putting crushed labu sayong as one of the anchoring element for this project. Yeah. how it could react with the rain, how it works during the floods, and how it become a landscape for daily life. What we conclude is actually first one, nature can outperform concrete. That's what we always advocate for. Second is heritage can be a power innovation. And the last one, of course, we always want to advocate that climate resilience actually can create the beauty. I ended it with this. The future of Monsoon City is not only a higher wall, it is a deep relationship with the water, with ecology, and with the local culture. With this, I would like to end my presentation today. Yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you as well, Fong, for the presentation, and I think three different yet similar perspectives, and I think that this will be a really good start for our discussion that will be headed up with Christian as well as Ashley. So just as a brief intro, and then I'll hand it over to them, and we can go from there. So Dr. Christian Steele is an associate principal at Arup. He's based in the Singapore office. He's working primarily within climate and resilience in the Asia Pacific region as well as globally. And he'll be joined today by Ashley Hunter, who is an Indigenous Design Principal at WSP in New Zealand. She's also the director of IFLA's Indigenous Knowledges, Indigenous Practices program. And together with Christian, they'll be serving here to chair and moderate the debate panel. So please take it away, Christian, Ashley.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeremy. I think my camera's not working for some reason. There's a bit of a technical glitch there, so you'll have to maybe imagine what I look like. But look, we've had some really good questions come through, 5 or 6 questions come through. I'm going to just direct to those in the first instance, and then after we've heard a quick response from the panelists, we'll move to a question that Ashley has picked up and has to share as well. So, Surav, you've indeed all panelists, thank you very much for your presentations. Very, very interesting, complementary, common messages coming through from many of them. Surav, your presentation sparked a number of questions. You've responded to them in the chat. I wondered whether you might just overlay a little bit directly some key responses so we could hear from you in addition. We saw a question come through on financing and how funds were secured and where they come from. Another question was talking about the process of getting this sort of pilot project off the ground with government, and perhaps signaling how do you scale it and how do you move from one project to hundreds of projects. There was a comment there about effective measurement so that we can look at performance of this sort of development over time, over a longer period of time, and the collaboration that perhaps is going to be needed to make such things successful. And then finally, there was also a thing coming up in one of the questions on effective communication and how the sort of solutions and projects here can be communicated well to the stakeholders. And of course, there are many in projects like this that we've been discussing. Maybe you could offer some first comments, and then also I'd be interested to hear whether Fong and Angia had any additional overlays to that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your questions, Christian. I'll start with a few things that helped us. As one, we came into the context with a very effective set of communication tools, and it landed in a context where the government was desperately looking for solutions because they were experiencing more than one climate crisis at a time. So the crisis offers the opportunity that because they're trying to solve for flooding, water scarcity, and heat at the same time, and the traditional solutions that are being offered by engineering or by infrastructure in general tries to solve one at a time. Stormwater drains only solve for flooding, they don't solve for water recharge. gray retention ponds only solve for even water scarcity to some extent, but not for heat. And so we kind of came in presenting the potential of nature-based solutions to be able to tackle those three crises, and also at the same time aiding in urban livability, which is becoming another kind of identifier for competitiveness, because our cities have grown and almost every city in India has also become unlivable at the same time, or very hard to live in. So whenever we find the right leadership who sees that potential and is willing to invest in it, it gets picked up pretty quick, because our value proposition is always about resilience to multi-hazards, about livability, and about how we also did a study that I didn't mention in the presentation, but we did a study with IIT Madras, which is a very reputed engineering college, with their hydrologists, with a team of hydrologists, to actually show in one of the urban neighborhoods, if we implemented a blue-green infrastructure network, it would actually be able to mitigate more extreme floods at half the cost of trying to do that through only gray solutions. And at the same time, you're getting a lot of aquifer recharge benefits, you're getting a lot of cooling benefits, and you're improving the quality of life. So that study itself unlocked a funding from the central government scheme of about 3 million euros to scale up this approach in the city. The funding for the two parks came from a different bucket. It was just public sector funds from the Chennai Metropolitan Development Authority, whose mandate is to look at how the city is expanding, look at how to improve livability. And so they also, apart from doing land use planning, invest in certain catalytic projects. And these two 16-acre parks happen to be part of that budget. About scalability, when we presented this approach, not every department did it with our technical support. So some departments just kind of took the idea and applied their engineering lens and started creating concrete craters, basically, in parks. So you would take space away from the park and create these concrete pits, and then you have to fence them because they built it too steep. So it's become a kind of an eyesore, but they're calling them sponge parks. So we tried to reform it a bit through some capacity building, but we really see that as one of the challenges is to scale up nature-based solutions within the public sector requires the kind of capacity. So it's definitely more cost effective, but it requires a technical capacity that is hard to find. And we had to handhold the contractors so much through the whole process of getting things done right, that right now we are still trying to crack what it means to be able to make this scalable, and how this translates in the smaller park. We had the chance to do it in a smaller park, but that also got thrown off for other reasons. So we are showing you two of the success stories, but we tried to do dozens of them that didn't actually end up getting built, or got built in a different way. And that's what we are trying to resolve now with the kind of consortium with some Swiss agencies, including EAWAG, where we will study Chennai and Mumbai and actually kind of diagnose why it couldn't get scaled up, or why it got implemented the wrong way, and how we can build those capacities. So, yeah.
Amazing, Saurav. I wonder, Fung, Angia, would you want to comment on these first general questions before we pass on to Ashley?
Yeah, I agree with the Saurav said that the leadership also is playing a very important role here. Even though in Bali, they have already local enforcement, something like that, but the leader is very important. So to make it the people keen that they want to keep the greenery, if like in the Taro village, because that's just in the mountain, in the highland, if all the forest is gone, and then we'll be flooding to the Ubud. Maybe everybody knows about Ubud here, So the leadership to make it all the people in the village that they have the economic situation is can be support them, that they don't have to sell the land, then they will keep it. So this is I would like to call that as a nature-based solution, because since they want to keep it the land there, and then they make it they follow the regulation. If you keep the land there and you keep every single a green area there, it will give the good economic for them. They don't have to changing the morphology of the area, become the hotel or become or the guest house, something like that. They just enough for what they have there now. And then they will continue that they want to keep that area as what the Taro village now. And then visitors still coming, but they may keep in the limited, not as like a mass tourism, but then the economic also grow. Otherwise, they're jealous with the people in the city like Denpasar, why they still can selling renting the land for 30 years, for 90 years, something like that. But then people in Taro, that's not allowed that. They have a communication, and then they have a good commitment within the nature and the people and the leadership there. So they will keep as green now as good for them for in the future. Thank you, Christian.
No, thank you very much. Fong, any comment?
Yeah, I guess most of the cities in Southeast Asia or I mean is facing the same issue, and we are exploring the nature-based solution as an alternative solution because for Southeast Asia country basically building concrete drain is the direct solutions from authorities and engineers, but we would like to showcase that uh, with this alternative solution, it's not only replacing the current drainage system, but also to provide a functional space for the public and for the urban area. So it's not only infrastructures that drain the water, but it also as a social infrastructure itself. So we are actively in Malaysia. We're actively advocating on this, and this is from me. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Ashley, maybe we pass to you and a reflection and a question I think that you've got to pose.
Thanks, Christian. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou mō tō taima I tēnei rā. Thanks everyone. Thanks to all of our speakers this morning, today, for all of your insights and for sharing your projects and your knowledge with us all today. I've got a two-pronged question. One that's come through our chat, and then something that I just wanted to take back to all of you speakers as well. So our question is come from Daniel around nature-based solutions. Are sponge landscapes nature-based solutions to river or rainwater surges actually more of an Asian intervention rather than a European or US one? Did each of you draw inspiration from neighbouring Asian countries? Which sort of takes me to my second question and thinking that I understand these concepts more so as indigenous or cultural ways of connection, living and being with nature. And so my second question back to the speakers is on how important do you think it is that we look back to past historic indigenous and cultural practices to influence our future practice in working with our landscapes, our waterscapes, our environments, how we're adapting to climate, how climate's sort of working and shaping the way that we do work versus working against and or containing what we see is happening through these monsoon events, through these climate events that are shaping our landscapes every day. So those are my two sort of questions back to the panel, and so maybe we'll start with you, Fong, as you left off with the last question.
Okay, go to the first questions. I guess it depends on locality. Like Southeast Asia, we are in the tropics and we are receiving more water than from other countries. So I guess we are referencing we are referencing some of our neighboring country best practice, like China for the Spawn City, ABC from Singapore. Even Spawn City in China, they have a different for the north and south due to the rain volume. So I guess yeah, this is how we get inspiration from our neighboring countries. So the next one is yeah, I guess with this nature-based solutions or spawns city approach, or I mean approach, we could it's a future for landscape architecture, I guess. So it not I would not say it is a purely landscape architecture solution, but it's more to an integrated solutions with other professionals. But working with engineer, I think is I mean in Malaysia, basically engineers are quite open with nature-based solutions. So yeah, we are quite happy to work with them. And for our clients, for our funders, it could be a way forward that they can save more money but achieve the same effect. And while on top of it, it could add in another layer of social infrastructure to them. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Fong. And how would you respond to that too, Angia?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and here in Indonesia, you know that now the government is under the Ministry of the Public Work. We're really concerned with the regulation since we learned about the catastrophic that we have a lot since last 2 years, 5 years, you know, that we cannot continue to build all rural become urban, you know, and then now we have the rating tools, something like that. Government have the, sorry to say that, from the Green Product Council, and also another rating tools for the Eco Village. So to make sure that all can be measured. Otherwise, we don't know the baseline, and we don't know then after all the development it become not good for everybody, and then not good for the next generation. Then learning from the Taro, and actually in my presentation also there is a longest Kapuas River in the Borneo. As people still live there with their wisdom, you know, that they don't have. I mean, they still they live with it, with that river. They don't make it that the area should be like a concrete, but unfortunately in the city itself, in one city is called the Pontianak in Borneo, the government make a long concrete barrier along the river, but the river is 1,000 something kilometer, but outside of the city, the people still live there like a nature-based solution. They already know they will flooding. They live with that. So their house is rumah panggung dat namanya. I mean, with the pilates, you know,
Risen.
something like that. Yeah, right. And then some is lanting. You know, lanting is when the water is raised. Also the house can follow for the surface of the water. So they make it as a locality, and they don't have to against the water there as a river, you know. And also for the people in Bali, you know, that's learning that in city like in Denpasar, we said that don't make a same mistake like in Denpasar. Everybody said like that, you know. So please keep your area as a greenest, and without the jealous of the economy, you also can have the economy raise for the people there, but you keep it your area, something like that. So the government also now pay attention with some of the grants, something like that. And then I join also, my friend have a really monitoring, you know. One ever said to me, in one area, suddenly 5,000 villas built in Denpasar, surrounding area. Can you imagine? I mean, it's all is become a concrete, you know, and where the water flow, where the water gone, and so Denpasar is a flooding a lot, suffer last year or beginning of this year. So from there, we keep talking to the people, to the community there. So please, if they still want to follow the rating tools, then the economic will follow. If they can guarantee with the economic, so we can make sure we can measure that the morphology of land will not changing so much. Maybe yes, changing, but there's not be as a all become urban like that. Ashley, thank you.
Thanks, Angie. And I think that's really important as well. You can see so many of our places across the globe starting to react instead of acting. So hopefully we can start to change the language, and we can get more government agencies starting to act in the best practice initiatives that will do better instead of being on the back burner and reacting. So thank you for your perspectives, Angia. That's really good to hear, and interesting to hear what's happening in Bali and Indonesia. Surav, do you have anything to add on those questions as well, just as we wrap up?
Yeah, so India is still not there where the engineering community is strong enough to support nature-based solutions, although because of all the talk around sponge cities, there's a lot of interest in it. But if we continue to hold on to a certain paradigm, even with good intentions, you end up executing it in different ways. And so I think beyond pilot projects, the scalability will require a kind of embedding into national standards, embedding into I guess policy, even if policy is there, it's basically embedding it into standards, embedding it into how contractors are trained, how the whole procurement process is reformed, how consultants are appreciated in that process for public infrastructure projects. But I think in the private sector, we're already seeing how they can work with nature in a way that becomes an amenity for them, and also, because of climate change, a cost-effective way to mitigate risks. And when it comes to traditional practices, I think obviously that's at the heart of what we are taking inspiration from, except the landscapes over which those practices used to work have transformed so significantly that we need to reinterpret those practices using whatever technologies we have and using the kind of design and engineering creativity that's needed. So more professionals of different disciplines need to work together from those principles, but really adapting to both the fact that our landscapes are more concretized than ever, but also the events are getting more extreme. So that requires quite a bit of creativity that we are hoping to mobilize together.
Yeah, for sure. Just one thing on what you've said there is, do you think in the public sector their sort of resistance into sort of adapting the concepts of sponge cities and sponge collaboration is around a fear in change, or do you think it's something more to do with language and changing the language that we're using? Or what are your thoughts on why why we're so slow in the public sector to adapt to change? Oh, you're on mute, sorry.
Yeah, I think that even once the concept is understood, which is one barrier that I think we have overcome, and at least the word has become mainstream enough that people are noticing. But I think the biggest challenge is just institutional inertia. And it's not just that governments have certain inertia, it's also that consultants have certain inertia. It's much cost effective to put out engineering gray infrastructure sections and get a big fee for that, because the irony is, to do nature-based solutions is cost effective as a capital investment, but actually you need quite a bit of intelligence from design, which makes it actually less appealing for even consulting firms to go into it. And then there's contracting inertias. People are just used to doing what they are doing. So if you're used to pouring concrete, even if it's less expensive to not pour it, you are used to it, so you do it. And in many cases, the incentive is to spend more. and the more you spend, the more you gain. So that is I would say the biggest barrier is just that there's a lot of incentives linked to doing things the way they're done, and not just incentives, but also the inertia of the comfort of and the convenience of knowing how to do something. And that's also why in the same space, even if we are talking about sponge city as a concept, product-based approaches, even if they're not ecological, are getting traction because, again, for them, that mentality of what is easier to implement, even if it's more expensive, is more appealing than, oh yeah, it's cheaper, it's better, it does all these things, but oh, I need to take time to do it. Oh, I need to take a specialized consultant who I've never worked with before. So there's many things there that we are noticing now is the main barriers to scaling up.
Yeah, for sure. No, I definitely hear that. Thank you all to our speakers again. And I'll hand back to Jeremy now because I can see we have gone a bit over time, and I'm sure we don't want to take up too much more time of everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you as well for the speakers and the debate panelists as well as those who are involved. I see there might be one question here that is a kind of a great wrap up right there. But I know that there's one question here that they were looking into. I wonder if you wanted to take it offline, Surav, where Fatima was asking about the biosphere placement and the sizing. Perhaps we can get in contact, or if you have a quick response to that, then we can answer all of the questions that were in the round today.
We could do like a training type webinar because that's
Yeah, that's
it's a
great.
very
That's a good
technical question
point.
with many factors and many variables. But there's also very good manuals already out there. I think even the UK has released some references that we ourselves use on how to size bioswales, and there's a lot of good American manuals that have actually put it out there. And I know China has done a number of things, but we have never managed to find a manual from China that we were able to reference. So we had referenced a lot of good European and American sources to learn about biofuels, but then for the Indian context, figure out how to do it with materials that could be procured. And but the basics of how to size them, how to lay them out, it's very well documented on many resources online. Yeah.
But it sounds like a great idea, and I'd love to bring in also the input. I've been involved in projects like the Bishan Park renovation in Singapore, and being based here in Europe, there are different standards, different ways to look at it. How do those match? How do they work? Because they're different contexts, different cultures as well. And I think that that's the point, is that it's climate adaptation, right? It has to be for adapted to the area, and there is no one size solution. We know this, we preach it, and now it's we're in the role of teaching as well, making people aware, making the governments that we work with, the cities, but also developers and the local public, that they understand why and how and where the benefit could be there. Because it's always hard to see, but that's our role. So before we close today, Fong, Angia, Surav, any last words from your side? Tamsin as well, feel free to jump in.
Oh, okay. I guess we as a landscape architects, we need to go back to what we belongs to, our forte, the nature part, and how we uh, integrate the wisdom of the traditional wisdom and the modern wisdom together to solve the nature problem within the urban area. Not to say that we are replacing any professionals or any solutions, but we are providing an alternative solutions to the urban to make our city more resilient to the climate. Yeah.
Thank you. And maybe just a final word, maybe Angie, if you have anything you want to say, and then we'll wrap up in this lovely session.
Yeah. Being modern, it doesn't mean that we leave our base, that the traditionals and also the local wisdom is proven that we still can adopt, and it's also one of the solution, that we don't have to think that using the traditional knowledge, we become not modern. So we can hand in hands together to make this a better life. Thank you.
Well, I think with that, we'd like to say thank you from the IFLA side for taking part in today's session for our third webinar. There'll be a next webinar set as well coming out. Don't want to spoil the surprise. It will focus though again on another region with another set of speakers. Thank you for today, and have a good rest of your day. Please feel free to reach out to any of the panelists, the speakers, anyone from IFLA. If you have any questions, we're happy to take them on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jeremy, Kiang Xiang send his regards.
Thank you. Oh, it's lovely. It's funny how even though you're worlds away, then all
Yeah.
those years still have the same connections across. So, KS, lovely.
Yeah, yeah.
For those still on the call, please again feel free to reach out to any of us and Fong. Let's have a chat as well. And Anushruti, thank you so much for setting this up.
Thank you.
And I'll stay on for a bit longer in case something comes up.